uh, talked about, and things with the CRA and the Cody River Landing Project updates, Lord. So we just know that we come here and first know that the government is on your shoulders, and you've established government here for the people to work together in unity to make this a great place to live and work and play. So I just want to thank you for the leadership. And as I continue want to pray for the government, I'm thinking of Isaiah 11:5. All the elected appointed leaders would be filled with the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and the knowledge of the Lord, by the righteous judgments that we look to you to make right judgments, to work as a people. In Jesus' name I prayed. Amen.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all, Madam Clerk.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Scott Tremblay. Let the record show that Mayor Scott Tremblay is absent from tonight's meeting. Vice Mayor Tom Kinsella.
Here.
Councilman Todd McClary.
Here.
Councilwoman Linda Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilman Bill Colombo.
Here.
City Attorney Nancy Meyer. Here. City Manager John Duke.
Thank you very much. Has the council review our minutes from last meeting? If so, any comments or motion?
Motion to approve council minutes.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. The carrying on comes from the public. I have a couple here. Mrs. Rogers.
Good evening, Council. Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. I come here today to thank Port Richey for your continued partnership with Somebody Cares for the annual Easter egg event in the park, Waterfront Park. We had over 200 volunteer hours, hot dogs, snacks, games, drinks, and prizes, and way too much candy for the children. Supplies, food, and time donated at a value of over $9,000. Thank you for the continued relationship with Port Richey, and a special thank you for the Port Richey's police and fire departments. We pray that it was a blessing to the city and all who attended. And we want to know everybody has raved about the fire department and police department. So.
We love hearing that. Thank you. Next on the list is Danny Fields. Welcome.
My name's Danny Fields, and my address is going to be 8114 Leo Kidd Avenue, and the zip, of course, is Port Richey. And the same thing, I want to thank you for partnering with us. It means that Somebody Cares hosted it, but, you know, you got to go out there, and the police and the fire department, and show that there's a bridge between the city and the people to work together to be able to reach out into our community. So the feedback from the kids and the family was so great. I always say this because in every event, I see young police officers coming out of it, men and women, boys and girls who grow up, fire department and that. And so through youth ministry and stuff like that, you know, this sticks with them, what the city does, partner and allowing the story to be told about what Easter was about, but just coming together as a people and celebrating in our communities. And so Pat gave you all the numbers, and we'll continue to do that stuff in the park. So I thank every one of you that's here. I thank the police and the fire department, and we do got other stuff coming up. So on April the 19th at Light of the World Tabernacle, 8114, there, we're going to be having a luncheon, so it's at 12 o'clock. And that's where we get together with other leaders in our communities and see how we could continue to pray and fellowship and work together. So you're always invited there to come and get a meal, and we would listen to you and your concerns and how we could help serve you and benefit working together in our community. So that's what I want to thank you about. Of course, I know Scott, I really honor him. It was a privilege to get to know him and continue to watch him work in our community. just because, he's not the mayor later on, there's plenty of opportunities for him to serve in any arena and run in other arenas. So we will be reaching out to him again and thanking him for his service and continue to work with him. And I do later on, think, that we got Hoover coming in, that I'm willing to get to know him and work with him the same way and work as a team. And that's my prayer for him. I did get to speak to them both yesterday as they was out here as the voting went on. I'm trying to keep close on my time here. And so I did encourage Hoover to be a team player, and that him and Scott are still friends, and that they could also encourage one another as a citizen of this great city of Port Richey. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I have no one else on the list. Anyone else interested? Moving on. This time I'd like to pass this over to our city manager, Mr. Duke, for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Had the opportunity to discuss with FDOT personnel what it will take to apply for an exemption of the rules that would then allow golf carts to cross 19 at Grand. There's a detailed process. It'll include a traffic study. They recommended that we use the same engineer that Newport Richey has used. Fortunately, that engineering firm is on our approved list, and we've started the process with them. So that will be coming. We'll get our application completed after we do a traffic study at Grand and get that in. Had my monthly meeting with the county manager. We had several collaboration projects that we discussed. A couple of follow-up meetings with his staff. His stormwater staff came to City Hall. We had an opportunity to go through their stormwater projects, some of the both short-term and long-term projects, some of their thoughts about how stormwater moves through both of our communities. They're willing to come to a city council meeting and present all of that information, and so we'll work together to find a council meeting where they can come and present stormwater, city and county. I also had an opportunity to visit with the county's reclaimed water program manager. That was a good conversation. It was prior to my talking to the state folks who oversee reclaimed water. But good information from the county on how their program works and what the opportunities, and probably more importantly, what the challenges would be with the city of Port Richey getting into the reclaimed water business. I met with the Florida Rural Water Association financial circuit rider. He's assigned to this area. His primary responsibility is helping communities finance water projects. And so a lot of good ideas there. An introductory meeting, but we'll have follow-up meetings. If at some point we're interested in financing water projects, he'll be one of the first people I call to get some insight and guidance from him. I've had 2 follow-up meetings with Stantec. They continue to work on their on our water sewer rate study, and a meeting last week, a meeting this week. They continue to work on financial inputs to the rate study. They're almost done with the financial components of the water and sewer rate study. Just getting started on the CIP and impact portions of the rate study. So looking forward to them continuing and soon finishing their work, and when they do, they'll be back to present their findings to us. City staff, including PD, supported the University of Southern Florida personnel in removing the broken weather reporting station and tower from Brasher Park. We learned by calling the number on a very faded sign that it belonged to USF at one point. It was grant funded 20 years ago. Obviously, the grants ran out. The people who ran the program are no longer with the university, and the tower fell over. And so we, after some work with USF to make sure we were all on the same page and there was an agreement in place, city staff met with their staff, and we got the tower out and got it disposed of properly. I did have the opportunity to meet with state personnel who are responsible for overseeing reclaimed water. We kind of reviewed the project that the city of Port Richey had a number of years ago. I was able to find information that it actually had the grant number on it, and so they're going to do some research to find out where it was, what happened to it, and to look at the possibility of reviving that project. In that discussion, they identified for me a number of challenges and a number of questions that would need to be answered, including what are the numbers? What are we going to spend, and what little monetary compensation would be involved in putting in a reclaimed water system. So my initial sense is it's a lot of money and not much money coming back. They asked if we had any big users, golf courses, industrial parks that would use significant reclaimed water. Their general take was, if you're talking about light commercial and residential, you're never going to get your money back, and you're probably not going to use too much of the reclaimed water. It's also an issue of whether there's enough supply. 10 years ago, they were throwing reclaimed water away, trying to figure out what to do with it, and now not so much. So anyways, there's some challenges there. We're not done with the conversation, but they did say you'd want to do a rate study on reclaimed water and see what the numbers turn out to be. So I'll get you that information as we continue those conversations. Excuse me. I did meet with the county manager's chief of staff very briefly. The work on the county side continues with the interlocal agreement, and so looking forward to them finishing that up and getting it back to us so we can get that one on the books. The Chapel Avenue lift station rehab is complete. Looking forward to Regis Avenue project being started hopefully next week. It may be a week and a half or so, but probably next week. Citywide cleanup is still underway. We've had lots of folks dropping items off. Individual pickup will begin on Monday the 17th and proceed through Thursday the 20th. So that is going well. The water plant pond has been hydro seeded, and that's the final step in the pond rehab. Appreciate the guys in the water plant taking that project on. The utilities operations supervisor attended a unidirectional hydrant flushing seminar on the 11th. That gives us more information and knowledge about how to do hydrant flushing to reduce sediment in the utility lines. PD and Fire met on Monday with the representative from the vendor who's going to provide our fireworks show. So we've started our countdown meetings as we did last year, discussed the scope of the show, safety preparations, and the expectations of PD and Fire. So looking forward to, we'll continue those countdown meetings, include city staff in those the next time, and again, make sure we've got a good show for the city. We had an in-house insurance presentation and a luncheon put on by Florida Blue. They were kind enough to come and laid out lots of information for us about how to better utilize our health insurance, how to utilize the website, the app, and ultimately to reduce both city and Florida Blue's costs in maintaining our staff's health. We've submitted the final set of documents relevant to the FDEP consent order. That's a big deal. That has taken hours and hours and hours of staff time. I really appreciate Sal and Richie working on that diligently. That was an onerous task when we got it a year ago or so. And our deadline is May 16th, but the final documents are in now. If they have comments or revisions that they want, we'll have time to get them back to them. But hopefully this is the last box to check to complete that consent order. We've got one of the 3 utility vehicles have arrived. The other 2 will be are on their way. ETA unknown, as most things in the supply chain, but we do have one of them. As soon as we get all three of them, we'll clean them up and set them out in the parking lot for a council meeting, so you can actually see what you have purchased, and going to sit in and turn the lights on and play with the light bar. I want to say thanks to the clerk for a well-run election, and that's all I have, Mr. Vice Mayor. I stand for your questions.
Thank you. We'll go around the table. Any comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Colombo.
First of all, my condolences to Tom Quinn and his family on your loss. That's a very hard thing to go through, and I know an awful lot of the people in the city know you and your dad and your family and your mom, and I just wanted to say that personally, and I'm sure everybody on the council agrees. The reclaimed water, I really hope we can make that work. And you're right, the picture has changed from years ago. We did have a 50-50 grant at that time from SwiftMud, but I guess those days are over. But I mean, the original plan was to basically run up Washington so you could hit Abigail Court, you could hit, the big projects we have all the way out to Sand Pebble. And as Sal Licari, I'm sure, could fill us in, the amounts of potable water we're pouring out there on irrigation is a lot. And to me, the big issue with wanting reclaimed water is basically, if you can take 25% of the load off of our wells that's going on to irrigation, well, you just increased our production by 25%. So I'm hopeful that that can come to fruition. The tidal station is an interesting issue. I had tried to look into that one time, and trying to get a hold of that person at USF was damn near impossible. That was a funded project. I know that we've been getting some reaching out from Mike Bilirakis' office, and I would really think that from an area standpoint, where there are two official tidal stations, one to the south of us at Clearwater Beach and the other to the north of us in Cedar Key. And there is no other tidal station anywhere that you can read tides during storm surges and storms that are coming, and residents can see just exactly what the tides are doing. To see that included potentially either at Brasher Park or a buoy off the coast of us or something like that, somewhere between, Clearwater and Cedar Key, because tides in the Gulf of Mexico are very strange by virtue of being the Gulf of Mexico, and you have like a completely different tide set down in Pinellas that you do up around Cedar Key, just based on whether the base station is at St. Mark's River or St. Petersburg. So it's a long way of saying that you've got that station to the south, you got another one to the north, but neither one of us have a heck of a lot to do with the whole big area in the middle. So if that's something I think that could be approached from a Bilirakis standpoint, just from his, given the nature of the area that his area he represents, I think that'd be something he might be interested in pursuing. The only other thing is health insurance. For many years, and I don't know why it stopped, we had a health insurance broker that went out and shopped health insurance for us from amongst all the different providers, Florida Blue, Cigna, blah, 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 blah. And they would come to us with various packages and various proposals. We all know health insurance is a big chunk of money, and for any business or any city. And, it seems like we just keep carrying on with an insurance provider, and it's not coming up to council. We're not looking at it. We're not looking at bids. We're not looking at potential savings, to where we might be able to get as good or better coverage at a bigger savings to the city. So I would encourage the rest of the council to consider the idea of us doing what we have done in the past, doing what I did in the company I used to work for, was we had a broker that went out and shopped all those shopped all the different providers, and, you know, some people find any given type of business or entity like the city an attractive thing, and they're anxious to do it, and other ones don't, and they adjust their prices accordingly. So I think that would be a wise move as we move along in our budget process. Yeah, we're paying a chunk of change, like every business is. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Mrs. Rodriguez?
I'm good right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And just
I have two items. One, I've actually gotten several inquiries about the spy boxes slash auto flushes.
So your inquiries don't count.
My inquiries don't count.
Okay, I
People are
didn't
coming to
know what
me
that
and
was
asking
the
more
point.
about these spy
They're
boxes.
spy
They
boxes.
start
Buy
with
it.
spy
I didn't know with
boxes.
the couple that if one or both of them were yours, that's all I was saying.
People are actually wondering how they work. Is there any way we could get a video of them? Because people are asking me for a video of these spy boxes. And can we get a video of these spy boxes posted on our website or something so they can see how the water sprays out?
Can we have
And
the person doing the video stand directly in front of the outlet? I think that would make for great public meeting.
the second item I had is the vacant land across from Osner that is owned by the county. About 6 weeks ago, I said, boy, the grass is getting kind of high. It hasn't changed. In fact, thank God we had a drought because it hasn't grown as fast as it should have. We go to our citizens, tell them to cut their grass. We should be telling the county to cut its grass.
I'll make a call.
Thank you. That's it.
And what I have is, the last meeting you spoke about some of the couple fire hydrants that are in repair. Have they been repaired or have any?
I don't know. I'm gonna look to Mr. LeCarry, and Captain Quinn ducked out on this, so I don't have an answer to that, but maybe Sal does.
The two that we repaired have been repaired. One was at Harbor Point, which included a flusher, and then the other one was also repaired. But as of right now, hydrant testing is still going on by the fire department. Right now, we still have, we have 7 on the list that we know that we have to repair. So we're still working on that, but the 2 that we mentioned at the last meeting haven't done. So we're just continuing to move forward.
And so there's 5 other that are.
There's 5 more on the current list, but fire department is still gonna continue testing, you know, when they have staff available. So it's ongoing. It's gonna be ongoing for a little while.
Does this make those fire hydrants out of condition totally?
In some of the cases, yes, that they're completely inoperable. And in just some cases, it's just the fact that it's not either producing enough pressure or the valve itself just isn't activating, quickly enough. So it all depends on which hydrant, but we're working on, that's why we're working on the ones that are most troublesome first before we worry about, it all depends on the degree of problem.
Should we allocate this because of the I'm just asking about the importance. I've seen going down Bay Boulevard, a couple of them, and they're by each other, and I'm just looking if something did happen, that distance, that if they had to hook up.
Yeah, I'll talk to the utility department. Of course, it's, other instances are always coming up. We're trying to do the best we can with who we have. But if council chooses, then of course with the city manager, I'll talk to the city manager about making it a more priority so we can, diligently work on these. But we haven't forgotten them, and they are being worked on.
Operationally, there are workarounds that the fire department would use. The hooking up to a hydrant that's further away is just as viable to fight fire. You put a lot more hose on the ground, but it's not like there's no water supply available. So it's a lot more work for the fire department when the fire's over because they have to roll all that hose up. But they've made long lays before. So both utilities and the fire department are communicating back and forth so we know when and where there's a hydrant out of service. That's part of business every day. A hydrant goes out of service, it gets put back in service, but for that day or that week or even that month, the fire department will know that hydrant's out of service. We're going to have to hit this hydrant or that hydrant if we're going to a fire there. So operationally, we're making each other aware of it, and I've fought fire. I wouldn't want to have to, lay out 500 feet of hose, but if you have to, you do.
Thank you. Any other discussions from? Moving on, any comments from any boards, committees? I don't have anything in front of me. If not, we're going to move on with the agenda. Next on the item is the consent agenda. Any discussion or motion?
Motion for consent agenda.
Sorry.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Moving forward on the council business, I'm going to turn this over to our city manager, Mr. Duke. The next one is the keys of the Cody River meter replacement purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. As you can see in the background summary, this is an item that was postponed. It is a change out of a master meter, something that we were ready to do some months ago, but the construction site didn't warrant it at that time. So we're bringing it back to you now, and would request a motion to approve the replacement of the meter for the keys at Cody.
Thank you. Turning it over to council. Any discussion?
Is this in their impact fees that we're getting?
Yeah, that's my question. Who's paying for this?
Impact fee line item 43030 645.
I just needed to read right there. Thank you. I motion to approve.
Yes.
Thank you.
But just to be clear, that impact fee line item is the funds in that particular line item. There are funds from Cody River, or from
The keys.
the keys for that specific
Right.
person.
Yeah, there's
It's not just a general line item of impact fees we're taking out of that. They paid money into that for all that stuff.
that's correct.
Okay,
We good?
I'm good.
Okay. Motion to approve the keys of Cody water meter replacement purchase.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving to the next item, which is the fence code changes. And I'm going to, again, give this over to our city manager, Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The City Council has reviewed this code, discussed it, reviewed it twice. And I think the last time you were about ready to approve it, and legal counsel had some concerns that kind of brought that to a standstill. So the language was changed a little bit. As you can see, I think before the language was very prescriptive. It was, this is what you can do and nothing else. And so basically the words such as were added, which is descriptive but not prescriptive. And so for your consideration, obviously we will do whatever you choose to direct us to do with the code. If you want it changed, we'll change it.
Any discussion?
I do have one item. If we could change decorative wrought iron to decorative metal, that way it opens it up to aluminum fencing or other stuff. I understand it says such as, but I can see, not necessarily you, but it only says wrought iron, so aluminum fences.
My concern is, I think I voiced last time, is, the definition of picket. What exactly is a picket? Basically, we're saying a minimum 3-inch, a maximum 5-inch picket, but somebody could be putting up a 2x12 for a picket. So if visibility is an issue here, I don't see that this necessarily is preventing blockage of views.
To avoid that is have a picket no wider than 4 inches and spacing.
That's kind of my point.
Yeah, spacing of 3 to 5.
I mean, the idea here is to have some sort of visibility. That's why chain link was always sort of the preferred. It's not the prettiest fence in the world, but you can see through it. You can get a view. I can see under this basic, description here that you could put up a fence that meets this, that effectively is just as bad as a solid fence.
Can you easily say pickets no wider than 2 inches with a minimum spacing of 3 to 5
But
inches?
then again, I don't know the, you know. So I haven't bought a fence in a long time, so, you know, what's the standard out there for a picket when you buy, like, say, a pre-made wooden fence, a 4-inch, 3.5?
I mean, it differs. You could have a 2x2, but if you're doing wood, or if you go to the aluminum, it could be an inch to an inch and a half, the size of the diameter of the picket itself.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying for the visibility part, but I would have to put down there each individual size of a different picket. And you can pretty much get them whatever, you can get 6 inch if you want.
That's kind of my issue. I mean,
Well, you can just say no wider than.
I'd be inclined to, you know, no wider than, you know, like you said, a 2x2 is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. You know.
I mean, if you get the white pickets, they're usually 3.5 inches on their board. So if you go no wider.
Question, I haven't shopped for any in a
Yeah,
long time.
if you
so I
go
don't really
with
know.
no wider than 6 inches, you're gonna get 99% of all commercially available picket fences. And then you have no wider than 5 inches, and then you're gonna have 5 inches of space. You're gonna have the 50% opening that you can see through in the fence.
So what's the consensus of the council? What direction do we want to have Mr. Duke pursue?
Well, I mean, I agree with Todd on the, metal as opposed to wrought iron. You know, I mean, there's a lot of other metallic products out there nowadays. I don't know specifically why. Well, I mean, again, wrought iron, typically going back to the actual diameter of the fence, your average wrought iron fence picket, if you will, is pretty small. I mean, you know, it's not big honking up. It's not like a 3x3 inch square of iron, you know. So, I mean, that comes back to the question of, if we say metal, now all of a sudden, it's not, there may very well be, and you may be aware of, aluminum or other metallic fences that are built to look like wrought iron that just aren't wrought iron.
Well, that would still fall, if you read this correctly, or decorative wrought iron or metal with spacing between, so the spacing would still pertain to the decorative metal as well as any wood or any vinyl.
Well, again, my only point is, my experiences with wrought iron is it's a very old style of fencing. It's been around for God knows how many years, probably more than 100. And it's usually that little twisty piece of metal or a little square bit of metal. It's very, very thin. And usually, and the ratio of spacing to metal is far more spacing than there is metal. If we just say metal, then all of a sudden we basically have potentially metal pickets coming in that are duplicating the other pickets, and I don't know. I just
Why don't we just change the wrought iron to metal and do the picket size, what you
No wider than
suggested,
4
and,
inches.
and we can, I mean, if it becomes a problem, you guys can let us know. We can always, this code is not written in stone, we can change it again if we find that there is a reason to change it. This is a living code, we've already established that. So let's get off the fence, let's make a decision and move forward, and then if we need to change it in the future, we can change it in the future.
Here's the good thing about putting it at a pickets no wider than 4 inches. You're mandating at least 50% open area in your fence
Yeah.
that people can see through.
Yeah, right, so let's just do that, and if it becomes a problem, please let us know, and we'll move forward.
So this isn't a voting item, this is just a general consensus?
Correct. Just give us guidance and we can come back with an ordinance.
So do we agree with what we've just discussed here with the, what, 4
Yeah,
inches?
change it to metal, 4 inches,
Metal.
to 3 to 5 inches.
Do you understand? Because you got to write it up.
Ms. Myers, I just write it.
I have my notes on.
You know, I still have to say, I'm really, I mean, obviously, this doesn't affect me. I don't live on water, so it really is not an issue to me. But, yeah, you know, for people who live on the water, it is very important, and I used to live on the water. you know, if you look at the original verbiage, you know, which is now the strike through, which I understand was, you know, construed to be overly broad, but the two examples given were chain link and decorative wrought iron. And those two fences traditionally are almost invisible from a certain distance. We are changing this to by defining what we're defining, we're cutting way back on visibility. We're allowing fences that have far less visibility than a traditional wrought iron or chain link fence, which has been the code to date. I think we're gonna have a lot of waterfront property owners when fences start going up howling about this. I'm just guessing here. But that's a concern to me.
Well, you're still limited at 4 foot. You still can't go over 4 foot regardless.
Yeah, I mean, 4 foot, if you're sitting here, you're sitting at a picnic table, you know, if you have a nice outside seating area with couches, picnic tables and stuff, you're not looking over 4 foot. So, you know, I mean, yeah, you can see if you stand up. You know, I don't think,
Theoretically, they'll be seeing it from their houses too. They'll be seeing
well,
it.
you know, if they got an elevated house, it doesn't matter. You can put up an 8-inch fence, you know. Yeah, I think it's more a view from when you are down sitting in your
Well, they own the
backyard.
house.
Yeah, but they own the house.
They own the house, they're
Well, yeah,
making the
but
decision.
the neighbor next door.
But you can have,
I don't think there's so much an issue with the person who owns that house.
the side can be a 4-foot vinyl, right? It can be solid on the side. This was talking just the water,
So
the water
the
line,
people
right?
who live in their thing, if they're sitting down and having lunch at their picnic table, they can't look across their neighbor's property and see down the canal. I don't think that's a major concern.
Okay, I see what you're saying, Linda. Okay.
Just the water line, I thought.
It's just
So
down
if
to the
the
water
person
line.
wants to look out at the water, they
Okay,
can,
so this is, yeah, okay.
Okay, you
Yeah,
good?
yeah.
okay.
So
Again,
you're talking specific to the water, yeah, putting
Yeah, it's from the house.
putting a fence along the water to keep the dog from jumping in the creek.
Correct.
Or the
Correct.
dolphin from jumping in your yard.
No, that's cool. That'll catch them babies.
I got a lot
dying.
of trying to kill my dog, so I need the fence.
All right, okay, I'm good.
He's good, let's vote.
Consensus
We're not
is-
voting, we're just giving
Oh,
direction.
okay, we're
We're
done.
consenting.
Direction.
We consented.
Okay, so metal instead of wrought iron and no wider than 4 inches for the pickets.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Perfect. Moving on to old business.
Ain't got no old business.
Nothing to add for old business. Take it around the table.
No, I don't, thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job.